What can you tell about what's coming up in the last few episodes of Justify? We heard there was going to be a big showdown.
In the finale, what's coming up in the finale of this season?
In the upcoming episode.
Oh, in the upcoming
and
episode.
The finale.
You know, this next episode, I'm really proud, of these last 5 episodes. And when I say proud, I'm not just speaking of my participation. Really, everybody. I'm such a fan of all the actors on this show, and we're so lucky to have Neil and Michael T join us this year. And it's a season about crossing lines, about people doing something that they said they would never do. And this next episode, Joelle Carter, who plays Ava, she crosses the biggest line in this next episode, and it's something to behold, because I don't think that people will see Ava the same way anymore. And for Boyd, he gets an opportunity. This guy is so perplexing to me, really, but he gets an opportunity to in some ways stand in front of a pulpit, and galvanize the people kind of behind him in order to sway this election of the upcoming kind of sheriff election in his way. So it's his way of kind of striking back. And the thing about Boyd Crowder is he doesn't always strike back with a gun. He rarely ever uses his fist unless he needs to. But the most powerful weapon in his arsenal are his oratorical skills. Is his use of words, and his extreme ability to empathize with people, and you'll see it on full display, in the next episode. And I'm really proud of the writers for getting that right. And it was directed by Gwyneth Porter-Payton, who was not only the first AD on The Shield for 5 years, but then was a subsequent kind of director on The Shield. So she's a very close friend of mine. It was a great experience.
Boyd has always been so comfortable with who he is, but do you think that anything coming up with the election or Ava's actions, is it going to maybe make him question how he does things or look at himself differently?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I would disagree. I don't think that. I think for the first season and a half, I would say for the first season, Boyd was comfortable with himself because he was living a lie. He was a person kind of living in extremes. Mm-hmm. And after the first episode, he was almost killed. And and again, I've said this before, but it was the notion of someone that I know, people that I know that have almost met their maker, mm-hmm. more often than not find God. Mm-hmm. So he was very secure in who he was, although it was a faulty foundation, only to get to the end of the first season and have his belief in God and really everything shaken, mm-hmm. Really to the core. So season 2 for him, the first half of season 2 was about becoming comfortable with who he was, mm-hmm. and being honest with himself for the first time about who he was. So now in season 3, it's about building kind of this criminal empire, in a way that is slow and methodical. And he's hamstrung by his crew. I mean, like, he has Ava, which is awesome, and he has Devil, which he's killed, and he has Arlo, who's a lion in winter, and he has his brother or his cousin Johnny, who's in a wheelchair. But it doesn't matter to Boyd. Now he has some new muscle, mm-hmm. and he's slowly kind of building it, and hopefully for the first time in his life, he's able to see an end game. He's able to see the forest for the mm-hmm. trees, and so he's a different person in the way that he approaches everything. He's much quieter and much more thoughtful about
mm-hmm.
it.
And when he found God, and that when we first meet him in the second episode of the show, he goes from being this guy who's blowing up buildings and this kind of criminal, and sort of becoming another kind of criminal. So how would you describe the sort of, in terms of the character that he is, what kind of a change occurred, because he's going from one kind of crime into sort of another. So how would you describe a transformation of like a criminal becoming sort of a more enlightened criminal?
And specifically for season 1, you mean?
Well, just across the board in general.
Well, I think that human beings are very peculiar in the sense that they Like if you drink coffee to wake up in the morning, like I do, because I have a 14-month-old son, yet drinking too much coffee is kind of bad for you. I'll still drink coffee, and I'll use another way to justify it. And for Boyd, that's kind of how he approached kind of his criminal kind of empire. Initially, I think he was kind of justifying the things that he was doing because he's a showman. He's a charlatan on some level, and he's gregarious and he's the person in the spotlight. And then when he finds God, he does the same thing, but has different motivations for doing the same thing. So if it's thinly veiled if you look through it, and it's only after the middle of season 2 that he says, "Well, no, I'm not going to do the things that I'm going to do because I found God, or because I'm trying to I'm a narcissist and I need people to follow me. I'm going to do it because it's who I am." And so that's an interesting place for him to be. It's not in the extremes. It's about being very clear about why he's doing the things that he's doing, and it's about money, and it's about fully realizing who he is as a person. Now, the most interesting thing for me is going forward. Boyd may get into some trouble, and at the end of the day, the thing that brings him down, which is also the thing that has saved him, is love, and so that may be the motivation, kind of going forward, and that's really interesting when you think about it, because on one level that's sustainable, and you feel like finally in your life you're doing something for all the right reasons, but ultimately that may turn out to be his greatest mistake of all. Which may turn out to be the best decision that he ever made. Who knows? But it's interesting to kind of think about it when you think about things long term. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And he may be doing all the same things, just for different reasons.
Well, I think that he will be doing the same things, but he would be doing them in a different way. I think he was careless when you first met him, and I think he was more methodical after he found God. And then I think he was even more methodical after he came to the realization of who he is, and he doesn't unlike Shane Vendrell's character that I played on The Shield for a number of years. Boyd doesn't act before he thinks. He really takes his time and is able to kind of see all of the pieces on the board, and he's rarely surprised. But the most fun for me when I'm playing Boyd is when Boyd really is surprised and taken off guard, and that's happened this season because Neil McDonough and T are such smart kind of adversaries to both Raylan and to Boyd, and that's interesting when you have 4 people sitting in a room and they're like the cabinet for the president or something. They're the brightest Harlan County has to offer, and but we're all at odds with each other, and we're all just kind of looking at each other and trying to counter each other's moves, and it's going to come together in a way that I hope will be satiating. We've worked really hard to that end. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I'm long-winded, man. I get philosophical about all of this because for me it's like I got into this business, for one reason and one reason only. It wasn't to become a celebrity. It wasn't to own a boat. It wasn't to be on a television show, that went for 10 years and then check out. It was for the love of story, and I love telling stories, and I love digging deep into stories, and I love speaking to critics as much as I love speaking to actors, as much as I love speaking to fans, because at the end of the day, if story is king, that's what we're all here for, because we all give a shit about that if it's done right, it's done good,
So do you have a favorite scene, and if so, why? And it can be any season. And
That's
the name
such
of the episode.
I mean, I have so many scenes that I'm a fan of, and not just my scenes, but other people's scenes with Jeremy Davies, scenes with Neil this season, scenes with Margot that I wasn't a part of. Margot in the in the cafe talking to Helen, I thought was extraordinary. But for Boyd, I think there was a scene in, not the last episode, but the episode before that, which I think would have been episode, I don't know, 5 or 6. But he has a conversation with Joel, and he's down. He's really down, and he's kind of at a loss for what to do. And Joel comes in and offers her support, and makes this gesture of showing her bullet hole, to say that, you know, we're of the same blood, you know, we're of the same worldview, and I have a bullet hole and you have a bullet hole, and I love you, and no matter what, we're going to see this thing through. And I thought it was so subtle, and so simple and so elegant, and really kind of explored love from a very violent point of view, violent, poignant point of view. And it was a scene that wasn't originally in the script. You know, we were a little light in time in the episode, so it's something that Graham Yost, and it was actually written by Fred Golan. They just popped out at the last minute, and we just filmed it, you know, like on the last day of another episode. So it was really surprising. I love that scene, but I love this scene that's kind of coming up in the next episode. I love them all, man. I dig them, but that's the one. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Oh shit! Come on, man. Come on. All right, who's up next?
You have somewhere to be.
Well, you know what? No, come on. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. We'll do quick.
Did you want to? Assuming you survive this season, is there a direction you'd like Boyd to take?
There is a direction I'd like Boyd to take, and it plays out over, you know, a longer period of time. But I would like Boyd to have the motivations for the things that he does going forward be in the service of love, you know. And I don't think he's ever experienced that before. But when you're able to give someone something because you love them and you've never loved before, well, that's a runaway train. You know, I feel that way with my son, and it's something that I'm just now starting to experience as a human being, and I think it would be really interesting for Boyd to experience that emotion. But that's something. And come on, you here. Somebody else? Are we good? One more.
The bullet hole scene you're talking about when you and Ava share your bullet wound.
Yeah.
I like it because it builds, and later he tells her about what's going on with this robbery, and the oxy's been stolen and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Is this sort of like a Bonnie and Clyde type romance? And
yeah. Go ahead, please. No.
And so, is that how you guys approach it, or is it sort of just
we don't approach it that way, you know. I think if you have outlaws that are a male and a female, outlaw partners that are male and a female, you're going to get that comparison, you know, no matter what. And Bonnie and Clyde loved each other, and Boyd and Ava really love each other. So I think there are similarities, you know.
And within the gang, they treat her like Yoko, though, right?
A little bit, a little like Yoko, but she keeps them in line. As you will see, as evident by this next episode, I don't think anyone will ever question Ava's place at the table after this next episode. It's a good episode for women, and it's humbling for Boyd, you know. So
I like
thank you.